Leopold Lowy was born in 1928 to a Jewish family in Český Tychy, Czechoslovakia, a peaceful town in close proximity to the Polish border. It was here that young Leo experienced a rather normal childhood as Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party slowly gained power in faraway Germany. Following the Munich Agreement of 1938, Český Tychy and the rest of the Sudetenland area was ceded by Czechoslovakia to the Nazis. Because of the strong Polish presence within the city, the Germans allowed the Polish army to maintain control of Český Tychy. Thanks to a great deal of animosity between the Poles and the Czechs in the village, Leo's mother was forced to send her 9-year-old son to the nearby city of Ostrava in the Free Czech Republic. There, Leo lived with his uncle and aunt in a temporary safe haven, attending a school until the Nazi military machine finally engulfed the rest of the Czech Republic in October of 1938. Choosing to endure the occupation rather than escape it, Leo was taken back by his mother to Český Tychy. Leo's mother got sick in early 1940. As a Jew, she was not permitted to attend the only hospital in town. By the time she finally reached the Jewish hospital in the next village, it was too late. She died in August of 1940 at the age of 44. Soon after, Leo's father passed away. Orphaned, Leo was sent to the Jewish orphanage at Prague, where he would spend the next 2 years of his life as a second-class citizen in the Nazi world. In the big city of Prague, Leo was exposed to blatant prejudice. Along with 70 other children in the Jewish orphanage, Leo was forced to wear a fabric Star of David. This painful emblem was attached to all of Leo's clothing, and he was forced to wear it whenever he was in public.
While living in Prague in the orphanage, once you were not allowed to go to the public school, we went to the Jewish school. We were not allowed to go to parks, cinema, or walk on certain street. The food was rationed. Food was inadequate. We were not allowed to go on the trams, and it took us 3/4 of an hour to go from the orphanage to the school downtown in Prague. That was all during the German occupation. We were 11, 12 years old. What action could you take? Because whatever actions you took, and if they found out on the street, they would shoot you.
While the children were unable to vocalize their intense dislike of the situation directly, they managed to discreetly voice their opinion. The children performed a play called Brunyabar, which is a Czech colloquialism for the word bumblebee.
The play was based on 2 children who tried to collect money for a sick mother who needed milk. So they go out into the street and try to sing and collect few pennies. But Brunyabar, the organ grinder, would not allow it because he, with his monkey, was trying to get money. Well, anyway, he tried to chase him out, but he couldn't. What happened is 3 animals came to their help with other people, and they sang, and finally chased the organ grinder out of town. I was in a choir. The underlying theme was that Brunyabar was known as Hitler.
In July of 1942, Leo and the rest of his friends at the orphanage were sent to the Terezin concentration camp 30 miles west of Prague in a cramped train.
We knew that transports were going already in the 1939 and 40 to Poland, to Lodz, and to the Warsaw Ghetto, and so forth. So we know there were camps, but we didn't know what was going on. The Jewish committee was instructed to select certain peoples for certain transports, and the information came to the orphanage, and you had 24 hours to pack, to take with you 50 kilograms of clothes and a knapsack, and report somewhere in Prague at the railroad station. 1,000 people were put on a train and sent to Terezin.
At the camp, the boys were separated by nationality and age. Leo was placed in room 1 of block L417 along with 42 other 13-year-old Czech boys. By the end of the war, almost 150 boys would pass through that room. Most were eventually transferred to other concentration camps. The only thing close to a shower was a cold water basin in which the children were permitted to wash themselves in the summer. The 42 children slept crammed into 3-tiered wooden bunks that lacked springs or mattresses. Waking up to a roll call every day at 5 a.m., the children were afforded 3 meager meals while they performed various jobs around the camp. Leo worked in both the vegetable garden and as a carpenter, assembling crude pieces of furniture. While schooling was strictly forbidden, Professor Walter Eisinger, a teacher who watched over the students, secretly taught a high school level curriculum that included subjects such as history, math, and art. While half of the children worked, the other half attended school. Walter was even able to bring various scholars to lecture the students.
He gave us encouragement, hope that there is another world where if we survive, that we will live and try to forget whatever happened. He was a wonderful, wonderful person, instrumental in giving us hope and encourage us in whatever way he could.
Walter Eisinger encouraged the children to publish a newspaper called Vedem, meaning in the lead. Walter appointed Peter Gins, Leo's bunkmate, as the editor of this underground publication.
Peter Gins was an outstanding boy, a brilliant fellow, unbelievable, writer, philosopher. He wrote philosophy at the age of 14.
Peter would later be killed in the gas chambers of Auschwitz.
We each wrote an article, and every Friday we would read it, and it was critiqued by us, and Peter Gins would then put it behind his bunk and save it. It's such a beautiful book. There are so many poems, articles, philosophy. Yes, I wrote about carpentry. I was not a painter, but there are a lot of pictures that were done by a lot of boys.
Virtually all of these pages were saved thanks to the work of Zdenek Tausig, who worked with his father hoofing the horses. Zdenek Tausig stole an urn, hid it in his pants, placed all the surviving pages inside, and buried the publication. The urn was finally smuggled out of the Communist Czech Republic in the 1980s and has now been published in over 10 languages. Walter also encouraged the boys in Block L417 to form a club and find a common bond. The boys started an underground organization called Shkid, which in Czech stands for School in the Name of Dostoevsky. This club paid homage to the great Russian writer. In the early 19th century, Dostoevsky started a social experiment to care for the poor and homeless Russian children. These ideas greatly impacted the members of Shkid.
Professor Eisinger thought that by that club it would help us to stay together and help each other in whatever possible way it could.
Vedem, the Eisinger secret school, and the Republic of Shid were never discovered by the Nazis. The punishment for participating in such groups would have been harsh.
It would have been either shot on the spot or sent directly to Auschwitz. Well, out of the 115 boys that went through Terezin, only 14 came back, and only 5 are alive now.
After spending nearly 2 years at Terezin, Leo was sent in October of 1944 to Auschwitz, the infamous death camp.
When we arrived there in cattle cars, the doors opened, and here were the SS German soldiers with their guns cocked, German shepherds, straining into leaves, trying to jump at us. We had to line up, men on one side, women on the other side. And then we were going for the selection in front of Mengele, which was the supposedly doctor. He, with his glove, he would send people either to the right or to the left. At that time we didn't know what it was. To the right, you lived for maybe for a few more days. To the left, where most of the older people went, children, mothers, and babies, went directly to the gas chamber. When we got there, all we saw was smoke. Smoke was emanating from the chimneys. Later we found out what it was. How long I was in Auschwitz, I don't know. All I know that there were selections twice a day for work or gas chamber. Auschwitz, you didn't exist. You were lower than an animal. All you saw people jumping into the wire or being gassed. It's beyond anybody's imaginations what was happening in Auschwitz. No picture, no talk, nothing can describe the hell that was Auschwitz.
During his time in Auschwitz, Leo experienced lections twice a day. He even came face to face with Adolf Eichmann, the Nazi lieutenant colonel who managed the extermination of the Jews.
You were forced out of the cattle car in front of Eichmann to line up. And he looked you over, and with this baton or cane, swung you either way. I was lucky he took me over to the side where I went to work. For how long, I didn't know. You only existed there. There was no thought, no nothing. All you want to do is live. Especially I wanted.
After experiencing these horrific occurrences on a daily basis, Leo and approximately 1,000 other male laborers were packed into cattle cars bound for an unknown destination in Germany. Leo estimates that 100 people, some with diseases and other ailments, were cramped into his cattle car. Leo finally reached the Buchenwald concentration camp in Weimar, Germany. There, he worked 7 days a week for 12 to 14 hours a day building airplanes for the Nazi Air Force.
In Buchenwald, most of the capos were German criminals or communists or anti-fascists or whatever it was. Well, we heard when we were on the command of Buchenwald, because during the day the Americans came and bombarded, and at night the British came and bombarded. So towards the end of the war we heard.
Shortly after 3 p.m. in the afternoon on April 11, 1945, an American tank smashed through the barbed wire surrounding Buchenwald. Leo was finally liberated.
They couldn't feed us right away because people would gorge themselves, and those that would gorge themselves, their stomach would explode and kill them. Well, I decided with another fellow after a few days that strength that I'm going to walk and see if I can get some other food from the German people. So as we walked through the villages in our prison uniform, they would throw stones at us. They wouldn't give us food. They were afraid. They didn't know what's what. So I happened to walk and came across in Weimar, across the building, where I saw American soldiers. When I saw them, all I did is pointed and I showed them, which meant I was hungry. A few days later, and twice more, I came and found them again. The third time, Captain Fred E. Way Jr., who was the commanding officer, said, "Look, this guy probably can help us here while we stay here, while we're here. Let us stay with him." So I did stay with him.
Leo had stumbled upon the 639th Anti-Aircraft Battalion, Battery C. He was able to communicate in Polish to a soldier of Polish descent.
I spent 6 months in the United States Army as a mascot. I was cleaning their shoes, washing the dishes, KP duty, and that's where I learned the language as well.
A lieutenant named Wasserman, through his parents in Monmouth, New Jersey, was able to get in contact with Leo's uncle in New York City. After contact was established, Leo was able to receive an affidavit to come to America through Switzerland.
I was reunited with my aunt in Switzerland, who by miracle was, instead being sent to Auschwitz, was sent in February of 1945 to Switzerland. And the deal was that Eichmann was trying to make a deal with whoever it was, 1,000 Jews for 1,000 trucks. Well, that never came about, but the 1,000 Jews were sent to Switzerland, where they were locked up by the Swiss government anyway. And I have to thank the GIs and the soldiers and the officers who brought me back and gave my life and spirit back. I started to talk about the Holocaust. I didn't want to talk about it all. But when they came out that the Holocaust didn't exist, I owe it to my friends, to their memory, that I have to speak up for them because they can no longer speak. And that's why I'm speaking to colleges, churches, schools, high schools, temples, wherever they wish. It's a thing that really happened. Nothing justify their warped mind, the lying. There's evidence. There are living survivors who can tell about that. And here they come and say that this never happened. So I wouldn't even want to talk to them. I wouldn't go under to speak to them. There were a lot of lawsuits, and they were all won by people who fought them. It's terrible what's being done in Darfur, in Yugoslavia. And you have to fight to protect everybody's life. Life is very precious. We are all children of one God. It's the youth who has to continuously fight for freedom. And as I say it, there's a 3-syllable word. Everyone has it. It's a 3-syllable word. It's HIP. We all have it. And what it stands for, you have to fight hate, ignorance, and prejudice. And you are the future that should turn around the world. And don't ever forget it.